Okay, part two my review because I ran out of time. So, where I left off, Julian's grandma comes to town and basically is ready to move her out of the city because Davis gave her and her grandpa a temporary guardianship and put all his money for her in a trust. Julian doesn't want to leave, but basically the grandma's dead set on because she feels like New York ruined her son is going to ruin her granddaughter. Basically, Julie's trying to prove that, she has family here. Currently, she's trying to do it with Zoya and Nick, but Zoya isn't there because Zoya is distracted with a new friend named Shan. Now, Shan, I was excited. I was like, finally, we got a dark-skinned sister on the show. But the introduction was like, dang, she's about to be that bad influence. Zoya, we can't go down this path, please. But we met her in like the beginning of the episode 11, and by the end of episode 12 she ended up being actually a good influence because she actually had Zoya and Nick confront their problems and actually talk to each other. So I'm like, okay, I like Shan. I'm also happy that Zoya finally has a friend outside Julian's circle of people, especially with the season finale. Again, my lips are super chapped, y'all. I'm literally going to be like a little bit licking it out apart, just to let y'all know. So another storyline we have, Obi's sister's introduced. If you recognize her, she is the friend from You Season 1. His sister Heidi comes into town, basically just to come with him for the holidays because they're going back to Germany because their parents are German. And she comes back engaged. And she's around like 20. She's a girl boss. She has her own company. I'm like, okay, girl. Turns out she and Max have a history, i.e. she took his virginity. Now, I'm immediately like, okay, so Max is 17. If this happened a year ago, you were 19 and he was 16. Statutory, wait a minute. But not then again. But anyway, we're going to put a pin in that. That basically Max is on like a whole little tirade because literally he's done with Aki and Audrey, who are trying to get themselves into a new throuple relationship with other people, even calling back the guy from the coffee shop. I'm just like, oh my God, this is the only time we're ever going to use him in the story. I'm like, bro, why you gotta waste the black characters? Come on now. I was so mad about that. And so basically they are trying to make this work, but they eventually do realize they miss Max. We also have the teachers trying to get Gossip Girl back. They already took care of the coach of like a drug accusation. The other one on an SAT scandal. And then they had to get the older lady. It was kind of hell-bent on making these kids miserable as much as she is. So they eventually get that back through a mini alliance between Jordan, Kate, and Wendy. And it all happens at the private school Christmas party gala, all of that. So we have that going on. And as I predicted, Julian was going to move in with Zoya and Nick because the grandma sees how attached Julian is to her friends, especially to her sister, because literally that's all she cares about. They have been her support system this whole time. And so she gives Julian the key to the penthouse and lets her move in with Nick and Zoya, who are unfortunately on their way of moving out of the apartment. So we have that going on, which leads into episode 9. Now, episode 9 is basically the fallout of Tipgate, which happens at the end of episode 8, where Kate basically decides to basically leak everything except their identities of all the tips they got in from who, and all hell breaks loose. And this, I wish we spent more time on it because that's a huge deal. That's a huge plot point. And I'm surprised it didn't like cause any effect to like the main friendships in the show, because you have all these messages. You even got one from Moné's mom, who we meet in this episode, talking about how she sent a tip to Gossip Girl talking about Zoya had mono. I'm like, what the hell? You a whole parent, you getting in the mess? What? So anyway. Oh yeah, that part of episode 8 I forgot about. Max and Obi ruin Heidi's engagement, and she is pissed. She tells Obi off, tell Max off. I love her, bring him back for season 2. Anyway, back to episode 9. I'm sorry, y'all. This is not an organized review. basically, they do their annual New Year's Eve trip to Hudson. Julian brings Zoya along, but she is hell-bent on trying to get back with Obi. This reminds me of Topper from Outer Banks, who, y'all know that line where it's like, you don't love me, Topper. You love the idea of me. You love being seen with me. Julian was given that energy this episode. I'm just like, bro, stop. Like, you got Monet and Luna in y'all head right now. Luna, her and her man Rob, the farmhand, we should have gotten more time with them. I'm like, finally, we get a little bit of Luna's story, and it's in the last episode. Writers, do better. Also, add more episodes. We have this whole thing going on, right? Julian is trying to get Obi back and get rid of his new girl, Grace, that he met at the airport, randomly walking onto her plane, but she is a sweetheart. But they play on her weaknesses. Zoya is just disappointed and just having no fun and wishes she can hang out with Shannon and her friends because they're actually doing like fun stuff around the city, like going to poetry clubs and meeting famous like musicians. So she wants to go there. So they go to this bar. Aki and Audrey are trying to get Max into a negotiation for this throuple, but Max keeps saying no. I'm like, leave this boy alone. He don't want to deal with y'all. Y'all use him for everything. Y'all can't get it. And Monet and Julian craft a plan to get Heidi drunk on tequila because that is her weak spot. And she makes a complete fool of herself. And Zoya is extremely disappointed with her sister because she's already mad to that old mean girl that she initially met. And it sucks. So, next day, Grace leaves. And Julian's confronted by Zoya, who gives her the tough love talk, which I'm really glad she did. And basically, she tells Obi that, she's still in love with him. And he's like, look, I have to move on. I literally have the realization that I am the problem. Thank you. Finally, some character development with this dude. And Julian realized that she has to make things right. So the New Year's Eve party, not only does she invite everybody in town, she arranged for Obi to go in a car back to New York to be with Grace. She told her everything that happened. She also called Shan so that Zoe can hang out with her friends. And I'm like, great, cool, awesome. And then Monet's just pissed off because she's just like, after all the work I've done, we're trying to get back to the things that were, I should be the queen bee if you're not going to